Hey everybody, it's Stephanie Mo Davis. Oh my goodness, it has been a long time since I've made a video last, and not really for the traditional reasons why most of us have been kind of out of the loop. I have moved a couple of times, and I am so proud to say that something I've been working on for a very long time, and something that I had a lot of perceived failures around, is finally coming to fruition. So, right now, I'm in Houston, Texas. Okay, so I have moved from Pennsylvania to West New York, back to Pennsylvania, back to Houston, all in under a year's time. Okay, so what I want to tell you is that for those of you who follow my channel, this is really for those of you who follow my channel because I consider most of you friends, I know most of you, so I just want to kind of give you an update of everything that's gone on since I've been last making videos and since you've last have seen me and known me to be making a lot of work for the CKD community and trying to, really express a lot of my concerns about what we need to shift in the medical community to have better care for patients. All right, so let me tell you a quick story. I'm going to sum this up really quick. So I spent, I would say, the entire year of 2018 into 2019 dedicating the majority of my time for free helping patients that were in the CKD community, patients that were on dialysis, patients that were interested in getting involved in the transplant process, people who've had a transplant, people who are going into rejection with a transplant and needing another or finding themselves back on the list. When I opened myself up to this community of people, there was an overwhelming need. It was like Pandora's box was busted open, and I was happy to be offering what I do in the world, my work, to these patients as a means of this tertiary care. Because there's a big need for patients who have chronic illness, and especially patients in the CKD and transplant community, to have every resource possible to help them stay positive and well and stay out of depression and anxiety. We need every resource possible, okay? And in fact, every patient deserves to have every resource possible, right? So I'm going to be very blunt with you. The aggregate of patients who are in kidney failure, not all, okay, not all, but most, do have and struggle with depression and anxiety because it's overwhelming. I've lived in this world. I was a dialysis patient twice for a total of close to 4.5 years. It's very, very hard. Chronic kidney disease is very hard. Even going through the transplant, as glorious and delightful and blessed as we are to be patients, that doesn't mean that the fight is over. It's still a lot of work. So what happened was I spent that entire year giving of myself, offering things, speaking to people, and I was hoping to start to implement programs into different dialysis centers, different institutions, different hospital institutions, different transplant programs, as a means to offer these other resources that have helped me so deeply and so profoundly that are outside of the current medical model to help our health and wellness along this journey. So I was actively really giving of myself and simultaneously reaching out to different hospitals and institutions and dialysis people and friends, and so many people were willing to speak to me. And in fact, the people who were, nurses or social workers or even doctors would often say to me, "This is so needed. This is so wonderful. We're so happy to have this really pioneering, modality come into this very, this community that so desperately needs all of the help and resources that we can get." And what would happen is I would kind of climb the ladder of people that I would need to speak to, and then all of a sudden there was this sudden and abrupt, I'm sorry, we don't know what to do, you don't have a degree, you're not a doctor, you're not a psychologist, all of a sudden everything that I was expressing to them just over and over, hour after hour, that everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." All of a sudden it got to this glass ceiling where some weird entity or force or something was put the kibosh on it. "No, I'm sorry, we can't bring you into our program because, you don't have a degree, or you don't work for the hospital, or you don't work for the dialysis clinic, or HIPAA. HIPAA a lot, right? We can't give you names of patients because that's against the law. We can't do that. I had gone to countless dialysis clinics and just said, I want to offer a free mindfulness program from a patient perspective, someone who's had 2 transplants, and someone who also ran 3 yoga and wellness centers over a vast amount of years. I didn't have, it's not that I didn't have credentials, I just didn't have what the medical community deemed as acceptable and appropriate to be able to help. Meanwhile, I know my experiential journey and the work that I've done with so many people over the last 20 years is a tremendous benefit to this process. So what happened was my offering and my deliberateness soon began to feel like a fight and a real struggle. And I thought to myself, all of these people are in need, but I can't get in. Can't get into the door. Like, what's happening? I can open a side business. I can open something outside of the process, right? But I can't get in. Why can't I get in to have access to these people and to offer? I mean, I was offering all of my services for free at the time, and I still got a no. So I burned out because I started fighting and I started getting really frustrated. But what is so divine about that and my vulnerability in telling you that I burn out is because it led me to make some very deep, self-reflective, introspective conclusions. And it wasn't that there was anything wrong with me. It wasn't that there was anything wrong with the people who were trying to connect these dots for me that were in the system. It was the system. The system was wrong, okay? So that led me to realize that what I had deemed to be my mission or where I was headed in my work was going to be something that was vastly larger than I could have ever imagined, and I didn't really know how the heck I was going to do this. But what I did know was this. I knew that my fellow community and other patients who have chronic illness need these other resources and other means to deal with their anxiety and their depression and their mental health issues. From a patient perspective, they need help. They need an advocate when they're going through this, someone who's been through it. They also need somebody who has other skill sets besides our normal resources. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I shouldn't even have to say this, but I do. There's nothing wrong with psychology, having a psychiatrist, having a therapist, having a counselor, or taking medication, okay? I've done all of those things at a point in my life. But actually, I realized that doing all those things still wasn't enough. And that's when I was able to tap into my personal resources, which was the mindfulness, the emotional literacy, the self-development, the inner work, and how that contributed to really my full embodied authentic healing, okay? So basically I thought to myself, how am I going to get in the system? How am I going to get in? How am I going to get into the gate? Who's the gatekeeper? What do I got to do? So I thought to myself, maybe I should just go back to school. And that felt so completely defeating, and it didn't feel right for me. But I thought it might be the only way. And I already have a bachelor's, and I was thinking to myself, should I just do this? But again, then I realized, Stephanie, stop compromising your soul and realize that what you have to offer is not, being taught in the current structure, or we would be having better results, and I wouldn't have this overwhelm of people who said that they were incredibly, thrilled to finally have something that could help them holistically. So I thought, all right, I'm not of the system, but I need to get into the system, right? And this is something, as I've had a very interesting journey, a very metaphysical journey, a beautiful journey where I know this already, right? I'm in this world, I live in this world, but I'm not of it. So I had to realize the same with the medical system. I want to be in this world, my work is in this world, but I'm not of it. So how do I bridge this gap? So what I did was, I decided to move to West New York, and again, doing my work, trying to figure things out, trying to be closer to the institution that I was last transplanted at, trying to, speak to some of the doctors, and again, there was this huge need and understanding, but nobody knew what to do with Stephanie. don't know where to put you. I don't know what to do with you. Yes, we need it, but I don't know. Like, how do we do this, right? So I thought to myself, nobody's going to help me. I got to do it. Nobody's going to help me. And I was at a point where I was already quite burned out with all of my over-giving and really not having the support back that I need and the structure that I needed to kind of implement this work. So in West New York, I remember having a moment where I said to myself, I think I'm going to give up this fight. I think I'm going to have to go back and do what I was doing, which was offering health and wellness from a separate entity outside of medicine. And this is exactly what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to contribute to the separateness and the polarization of this world of science and this world of, spiritual and emotional well-being. It's kind of like the traditional masculine structure of medicine, which is I say masculine, everybody please forget what you know about masculine and feminine and just hear what I'm going to say. It's an energy. So the modern medical structure is all operated under a very masculine-based energy. It's very action-oriented, logical. You're analyzing. It's data-driven. It's peer-reviewed studies. It's all of this kind of, external stuff, which is great. We need this. It's very, very crucial. But my aspect of healing, my very dramatic long-term illnesses also came from this feminine principle of health and healing. Right? That was like the wellness center out here, the yoga center out here, the spiritualist out here. I got sick of being outside there. I didn't want to be outside the box. I wanted to have us kind of all be working together. So what happened to me, to be quite honest, is that I went through the process of being sick with CKD, dialysis, transplantation, 10 years of really, really severe chronic illness. I didn't implement my work as much at that time because I was so ill, and nobody was reminding me how important that principle was. When I finally got my transplant and everybody, was happy and excited and all the doctors glorifying this process, get out there, go get him now, you're healthy, be happy, be grateful, you got a kidney, you're so lucky. I went into a depression afterwards. And it's kind of taboo to talk about this because we should be so grateful as patients. But really, honestly, I went into this funk and I was like, oh my God, what just happened to me? What just happened? 10 years of my life, like so much time lost. Like, where am I now? I don't have a degree. I'm don't have any kids. I don't have the things. I don't have the house. I felt like, holy shit, I have so much to make up for. And I don't even know where to begin. And I don't even know actually who I am now. And that's really what began for me. The culmination of this work that I do is addressing the inner self, right? Your emotions, your traumas, the PTSD that this process causes, understanding your childhood wounds so you're not bringing old baggage into this new life that you've received. This is so incredibly crucial, and only somebody who's been through it can give you accurate data. The experiencer. Okay? So we need both. So I went on another 10-year journey to figure out who the hell I was after all of this. And that's what I didn't want for patients. I wanted it to be offered together, right? Very often when you're chronically ill, not only are you under a more masculine structure of healing, which is beautiful, but you're in a more masculine state because you're overthinking, you're analyzed, you're worried, you're stressed. I thought to myself, oh my God, to me this is so obvious. We need to coalesce these fields. We need to coalesce the experiencer, the patient, and again, all of this beautiful credentials that I have personally, with working with mindfulness and yoga and breathing and meditation and all of this feminine principle of what it takes to authentically heal. I thought to myself, oh my God, these have to be put together, like the most beautiful peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I was about to give up. Even though I knew what needed to be done. I couldn't figure out how to get there. I couldn't, because it's never been done, really, where these two forces work together under the same roof, okay? So I was really, obviously, just, making my own path, and it was frustrating because I didn't know what to do. Everything I was doing seemed to be perceivable failure, but really it was just uncovering what needed to be done, or what needed to be course corrected, or what needed to be shifted. And what happened was, this is really, really beautiful, and I'm going to make a YouTube video on my other YouTube channel called Regenerating Healthcare with my colleague to talk about this story more. But what happened was so incredible. I prided myself as a self-healer, right? That's my work, right? Is figuring out this inner self-realization and actualizing that, and leveling up your consciousness and healing your trauma, and doing all this inner work that's often left out, that I never saw a therapist or a counselor or nobody ever during all of my years of illness. I always did it myself, and I see why now. I had to, because I was developing my curriculum. I was developing this program. But what happened was, when I needed it, was when I figured that I had this beautiful, beautiful expression to offer so many patients and practitioners and clinicians, but I didn't know how to do it. That's what was killing me, was, oh my God, I have something really beautiful to birth and offer the world, but I can't figure out how to, the baby's out, and now I have no idea what to do with it, right? I couldn't find my way. So what I did was I swallowed my pride, and I had found a psychologist in Australia, because I'm weird like that, searching for people that resonate with me. And I found this guy in Australia who I thought to myself, I'm going to reach out to him, because I don't know what to do. I'm either going to give up, and I'm either going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, or I'm going to have to figure it out. So I had one session with this really beautiful man in Australia, and we went through a whole bunch of things, and it was informative. But the magic of me swallowing my pride and realizing that I was failing doing it this way, and I needed to express that. I needed to just be vulnerable and say, I'm failing. I need help now, and that was big for me as somebody who's this self-help person. But what happened was, the magic happened the following day. And he reached back out to me, and he said, hey, I have this, really weird thing I'm thinking here. He said, I had a woman who reached out to me, fairly recently, and she's saying a lot of the same things you are, and she's having this concern about how we're approaching the medical model and what needs to be implemented and what we feel is missing. And he said, this woman is saying a lot of the same things that you are, and, but she's a doctor. And I thought to myself, holy crap, there it is. There's my gatekeeper, right? So he said, can I connect you? And I said, oh, please. It's my last ditch effort here. So that's when the relationship that I have with Ruby was born. And that was the beginning of 2020. It was January in 2020. I was in West New York at the time. And Ruby and I began our beautiful, beautiful relationship of merging these two polarities of the traditional medical model, the structure of it, and the structure of what helped me from this other side, this other principle. And, let's just say what it is. It was really merging this science aspect of medicine with this very, very abstract spiritual model that I had created all in my mind. And we started immediately talking about this when we met, and we started doing our virtual sessions online. And it's funny, because I said to her the other day, I said, and I've known her almost a year now, I'm here in Houston with her. And I said, oh my gosh, Dr. Shaw, I never even asked you how old you were. I never even asked. There's so many basic things we never even asked each other, because the work it just took a form of its own immediately. We were both primed, we were both ready, and you'll hear more about Ruby's story on the channel and how she got to this place as a doctor of desiring the same thing that I desired, which is two opposites coming together. And so I'm now in Houston. I moved here just a couple of weeks ago. Ruby and I have launched our nonprofit, our 501c3, called Regenerating Healthcare. And our vision is to re-implement the feminine aspect of healing back into our medical model, which will reduce burnout. It will give patients a lot better options and a cohesiveness with their practitioner. Our services are also offered to practitioners and clinicians because often they are, in this world of kind of more traditional Newtonian science, and they don't have time in their training to develop the self and to address the ego and to do this inner work. And it's kind of like, again, these two diametrically opposed aspects of what it takes to be well. So you have the patient who has the embodied experience, and you have the experiencer here who also is, really profoundly dedicated to self-realization and to helping others find that same inner peace with the traditional medical model. So honest to goodness, it has been such a divinely orchestrated, beautiful journey that, oh my God, it was crazy, and it's hard. It's hard and it's frustrating, and sometimes it's sad, and it's just all of these really beautiful things. But I'm just here to tell you that I can see how all of it was culminating to this: the good, the bad, the everything, the almost giving up, all the moves, all of the physical exhaustion of me just popping around to all of these different places with barely any means and running out of energy just to desperately seek to explore this model that I think is going to help so many patients and practitioners. Practitioners have it really hard as well, especially with everything going on with COVID. They're tired, they're burnt out, they're used to operating one way too, and they're starting to realize, oh my gosh, like I'm not really fulfilled. Like there's something else I'm seeking, and that's the soul. That's what I bring to the table. So so I'm delighted. I mean, I here in Houston, I'm barely presentable enough to do this video to let you guys know what's going on. That's how long it's taken me. But I just wanted to give you an update and also tell you, lastly, I'm not going to get political because I'm pretty apolitical, but what I will say is there can be such divine creation when two poles, two people that have opposite views, two people who've trained classically in different styles of a particular subject or topic, when they can come together instead of fight each other. And that's how I felt when I had my yoga and wellness centers, was that I'm one aspect of medicine, but we don't really get too involved with the other side, and they don't get too involved with us, and sometimes it can actually, they can be very heavily critical of the other side. So I didn't want to be polarized back then. I saw how this separation was delaying the healing process, not only in patients, but in humanity. So I had that vision years ago, and it's caused me great suffering to get to this point, but I didn't give up. I knew I didn't want to go back to being separate. I didn't want to go back to saying, well, this way is right and that way is wrong. I wanted to take this feminine principle of healing, this masculine principle of healing at their realized potential, and marry the two, and it's exactly what we're doing. So Ruby and I have created programs that are going to be helping institutions, even students that are in med school, patients, working on empowering the patient and their responsibility and self-governance in the healing process. And also we're going to have a practice. We actually are already seeing people online together. So she's the primary care physician, and I'm the patient advocate, the experiencer, and the spiritual and emotional advisor to help a person really have all of these aspects that they may need, or a fuller, broader spectrum of aspects that they need to contribute to health quicker. Both Ruby and I have the same core principle of what we do, and it's not about us. It's about how do we give the patient what they fully need to embody their health and wellness sooner than later. So that's our mission. So you can head on over to regeneratinghealthcare.com if you want to, see a little bit about our website and read about Ruby and me. It's kind of basic right now, but it'll give you a little better idea. We also have started a YouTube channel called The Soul of Medicine, and we just interviewed a really beautiful doctor. Her name is Dr. Shadi, and she talks about her experience with ego death in med school and how they kind of break you down in this somewhat kind of militaristic way to build you back up. But what we're coming to, and again, I'm not saying that that's wrong, that the current way is wrong. I'm just saying that I don't think they're offering the actual correct, authentic skill set to rebuild. And then there can be a lot of, loss of embodying that other aspect in the doctor's perspective for their patient and also for themselves. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions about anything, again, like honestly, if you need a PCP and you want to speak to me, it's like a twofer, right? So it's going to be Ruby and I working together. You'll be seeing us separately, but we're kind of like this 2-for-1 deal where if you feel like you need this advising as well as a PCP, we're going to be doing this together. We're already doing it virtually. We have our first 2 clients already, and they're people that we have known, that we trust, and they're excited about this work, and they're kind of our prototypes for everything. So, all right, guys, I hope you're all well. I hope you're all considering to do this inner work as well as the outer work because the world needs it more than ever, okay? I come from a loving but firm perspective where we need to really look at our biases because the more we feel joy in somebody else's failures, I think the more work we have to do. So I love you.